So, time to rejoice, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, first. Brett.
Thanks.
That's good. Yesterday, as you might recall, we left off talking about chastity. Okay. I couldn't help but overhearing some comments by some about my demonstration on the bridge. Okay.
Hey, I do a great bridge.
No, I made the point that one of the comments I heard was that even kissing is a sin. Well, to the point where one gets oneself aroused. Okay? That's what's sinful. We can't do anything that gets us ready to perform the act of marital intercourse if we're not married. Okay? And people are making out and necking and the hands go where they don't belong. That's the bridge activity. That's reserved for married people, because married people can do that, okay, to prepare themselves to do what married people do. They're walking on the bridge to get to the other side. Unmarried people have to stay off the bridge, because to be walking on the bridge and doing the things that are on the bridge is not appropriate for those who are not married, okay? Because the body gets ready to do things that you can't do. And just so you'll know, the male body gets prepared before the woman's body. Okay? That's just the natural way things work. Okay? So we have to be aware of that and be careful. Yes?
Is that in the Bible anywhere?
What in the Bible?
Yeah, it says the bridge.
Like, you can't do that stuff before marriage?
Well, this is, yes it is. I mean, in the sense that St. Paul calls us to chastity. Okay? St. Paul says that our bodies are holy. St. Paul says that if someone has relations with someone else, they become one flesh with them. Not meaning one sense in that they're married, but they've established a bond between their bodies that shouldn't be there because they're not married. Okay? And common sense tells us that we shouldn't do things that get someone ready to do what they shouldn't do, because then you're all the more likely to do it, because it's harder once things have started to stop. Okay? When I used to talk to my junior high school students, I used an analogy. Okay? And I said, it's like you turn on a car. Turn on the car and the engine will warm up and get hotter and hotter. It's awfully easy to slip it into drive and take off. Make my point? Okay? That's what we're talking about here. Okay? So you don't do things to get all ready to do something that you can't do. Okay? And that's how we avoid the problems. Okay? Occasions of sin, alcohol and drugs, that lowers our willpower to say no to sin, okay? Especially if you're with someone. Being in a place that's you're alone and offers an occasion to do something that you shouldn't do. Okay? I gave this talk last night, or I mentioned what I was talking about last night at an RCIA class that I teach, and I have some parents in there with a high school student who's about your age, I think. And when I said that we shouldn't be going to people's houses when they're going to someone's house when no one's home, and this is something may happen, and they commented, well, yes, we know that, because we had one of our children, found them before anything happened, luckily, and so we don't want to put ourselves in positions where it's too easy to sin. Okay, and I'll just say something else. As a priest, okay. The old Code of Canon Law, which you say still applies even though it's not in the code, the present code, but the old canons, the legal prescriptions, prevented a priest from being in a car with a female. That you couldn't do this. Okay? Why? Because something may happen. Okay, you begin talking, and one thing can lead to another. Think about this: if you were married, okay, if you were married, your spouse said, "Well, I'm going to go be off in a car eating lunch with someone of the opposite sex that was really attractive." Would you want that? No, you'd say, "Well, it's not a good idea because even though you're faithful to me, your emotions may be overcome by a situation. So you want to avoid those situations." As a priest, I don't get in a car with a woman and be driving anywhere because I wouldn't do that. Okay? I'm very careful, and priests in general, we're careful about not putting ourselves in a position where things could happen that shouldn't happen. So this applies to everyone. It's just common sense. Okay? This isn't written out in the Bible like I'm saying it, but it's just common sense from human experience, okay? That this is not a good idea. You don't want to do something that can lead to sinning in a serious way. So you avoid the occasions of sin. Now, God, He wants our happiness, and chastity leads to purity of heart. I mean, purity is one of the offshoots of chastity. Okay? We want to be pure in how we act and what we take in, okay? In what we view. Okay? There's a lot of things that attack purity out there today. I mean, pornography is rampant. Okay? It's the most plugged into thing on the internet. And again, here's the difference between men and women. Okay? Women don't become addicted to pornography. Women have a much more sensible view toward things. It's men that get addicted to pornography. I hear confessions of men that they are looking at pornography. Okay? It's very addictive. It is like cocaine. That's the high one gets from looking at this. And so you can't be looking at something because that in itself is a mortal sin. Jesus says, you look at a woman lustfully, you commit adultery in your heart. It applies to women too, but we have to keep our eyes pure. We have to keep our bodies pure. I mentioned Fatima, Portugal. Okay, more sins of the flesh people go to hell for than any other sin. Not that that's the most serious sin. Okay? There are other more serious sins, but it's very prevalent. Okay? Much more in our day than it was in 1917. You look around at what people are doing, not acting in a pure way. And our Blessed Mother said something else at Fatima. She said, fashions will be introduced which will greatly offend our Lord. And this is mostly women's fashions. It's not men's fashions. You do have some rather risque things, but it's women's fashions that tend to almost undress one before the eyes. You don't want to do this. This is all part of purity, living the chaste life. And if we do this, we'll be happy. God wants our happiness. And then when if your vocation is marriage, you can enter into marriage and do it without any baggage, without any diseases. I mentioned the diseases out there. A figure I read, this goes back at least 15 years, okay, of those who are sexually active in between 15 and 40, 40% of those individuals have genital herpes, an incurable disease. 40%. Okay. In the whole population of the United States, I think the number, I mean, you could Google it and see it, I think it's 20%. 1 of every 5 people in this country has an incurable disease. And that's just one of them. There are a whole list of them. Okay. HPV, the human papillomavirus, okay, causes cancer in women. You don't know you have it. Okay. Men carry it. They don't even know they have it. Okay. And you can go right down the line and go to the CDC website, the Center for Disease Control. They've got all the figures there. Okay. Which it's epidemic proportions, but we don't hear this. This isn't on the news, okay? This isn't on MTV. It's like, do it if it feels good, and they don't talk about the consequences. Pregnancy, disease, and the broken hearts that come from this. Okay? When men and women have sexual relations, have you ever heard of something called oxytocin? It's a hormone. It's released in both men and women, but it's stronger in women, oxytocin. It's a bonding hormone. So if you have sexual relations with someone, you're bonded to this person emotionally. Okay? Have you ever met someone, especially girls, who are treated horribly by boys, and yet they keep going back to them? This is one of the reasons, because they're bonded to them. Okay? This hormone has bonded them. That's supposed to happen, but it's not supposed to happen outside of marriage. When it happens in marriage, that's when it's supposed to kick in. This hormone to bond. Okay? The man and the woman are bonded together. Okay? And this is the physical aspect of the love, that this natural bonding takes place. Very good when it's ordered correctly. Okay? When it's not ordered correctly, it harms people. So God, the church, we don't want people to be harmed. That's why we tell you these things. Okay? So it's a preventative measure. Marriage is the bedrock of civilization. You get this wrong and things go wrong. That's why we're spending so much time on this, because people don't get it. Now, I'm going to cite a statistic. You read that letter of Archbishop Neinstedt, okay? Which was an address he gave, actually, to a group out in California. And one of the things he said is rather startling. I found it rather startling, okay? He gave a figure. Does anyone remember what it was? How many people, what's the percentage of people in this country, okay, that think same-sex marriage is okay? Do you remember the figure? It's rather, please raise your hand, I'll call on you. What? Roman? Not 53, no.
43?
No? No, not 50? 70%. 70% of people in this country, this is Catholics included, think that same-sex marriage there's nothing wrong with it. It's okay. Now, that's because that 70% has never been told what you're told. There's an ignorance here of what marriage is. Okay? Archbishop Neinstedt was saying, what marriage is? Marriage isn't just some emotional bond between two people and you live together. No, it's much deeper. It's a natural institution. And when Mr. Pitpain was here a couple of weeks ago, okay, he went through the biblical teaching on this issue. Okay. Now, where does the term homosexual sodomy come from? Especially the second of those terms. Where does it originate? Do you remember? Did he cover this with you? Okay. The story in the Bible. Okay. The story in the Bible. I have to check and make sure. It's chapter 19 of Genesis. Okay. Chapter 19 of Genesis. Did you read this over in class? Because I don't know what he did.
I think so.
You think so? Okay. You read it over in class. Chapter 19 of Genesis talked about the story of two cities. Does anyone remember the names of those cities? Because this is where the name homosexual sodomy comes from. Okay. What are the names? What's the name of the city? And Sodom and Gomorrah, the two cities. Okay. Sodom and Gomorrah, this is chapter 19 of the book of Genesis. Okay. In fact, in my New American Bible, this is what the subtitle is: the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay. Of these two cities, chapter 19 of Genesis. Now, why were these two cities destroyed? Because people in the city were engaged in this activity to a widespread degree. Okay, so homosexual sodomy is okay. is condemned, you can say, okay, in Scripture, okay, sacred Scripture means, SS means sacred Scripture, okay. Genesis chapter 19. The destruction, okay, of Sodom and Gomorrah, G-O-M, I think it's one N. Yes, it is. O-R-R-A. And we're told in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah that who was Lot? Abraham's nephew. Abraham's nephew is who? Who was Abraham's nephew? That lived in Sodom, the city of Sodom. These are two cities, okay? Who was Abraham's nephew that lived there? What's his name? Anybody? Anybody remember? Okay. What is it, Evan?
Lot.
Lot, okay? Lot, L-O-T, okay? He lived, okay? Lot, okay? I'm going to put Abe's nephew, okay? Abraham, okay? Not honest Abe, but Abraham's nephew, Lot, okay? Angels came to visit Lot. And the men of Sodom wanted to basically attack them and perform the act of homosexual sodomy on them, okay? Because they appeared as men. Lot took them into his home and even offered them his daughter and said, "Take my daughter," okay? Because he knew they didn't want his daughter. Okay? And the angels warned Lot, "Get out of town, because God's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone." They left the city of Sodom, and God rained down fire and brimstone and destroyed the cities. Okay, that's what he did. By the way, there's new evidence that Sodom and Gomorrah, those cities, are at the bottom of the Dead Sea. They've done some studies, and it looks like there are cities down there. They think it's Sodom and Gomorrah. The Dead Sea is all salt. It's where the Jordan River, I think, empties into, and they think that those cities are under the Dead Sea. Okay? Yes.
So wait, who offered them her?
Lot had a daughter. He said, "Take my daughter. You know, don't harm these visitors that have come." Okay? Because they were angels. I don't think Lot knew them. Okay? These were just visitors, and these men wanted the men in Sodom wanted to perform this act on them. So Lot said, "No, don't do this. Okay? Here's my daughter." Okay? Well, he knew they didn't want his daughter. They wanted the men. Okay? These turned out to be angels, and they said, "God is going to destroy these cities. Leave." Okay? And yes, Chris.
So because they were visitors, the guys wanted to sleep with them.
Yes, they were new men that came into town. Okay? So they wanted to basically grab a hold of them and abuse them. Okay? That's what they were intending to do. Yes.
Wait, I'm confused about the daughter because, so he knew that they wouldn't want her. So like, what happens if they said yes? Then he like gave away his.
We're not sure. Okay. He knew these were holy men. This isn't explained. Okay. All we know is that Lot offered them his daughter. Okay. And they we don't want her, and they went away. Okay. After Lot did that. Okay. They didn't press this. They didn't enter his house. Okay. But these two angels who appeared as men, they told Lot, "Leave. God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, these two cities, rain down fire and brimstone on the town." Lot left. He was instructed by the angels, "Do not look back. If you leave, do not look back to see what's happening." And someone looked back. Do you know the story? Who looked back? Who looked? His wife looked back, and what happened? She was turned into a pillar of salt. Now, we're not sure if that's a metaphor, if she was really turned into a pillar of salt, but that's what it says. She was turned into a pillar of salt. She looked back to see, oh, I want to, out of curiosity, God destroying these cities. Okay? Lot continued, and now, that's where the word Sodom comes from. Okay? Sodom, from Sodom and Gomorrah. And there is out there in our culture, all over the world, okay, there's a homosexual agenda, a gay agenda, promoting it, okay, saying that this is something everyone should accept. Now, what the promoters of the gay agenda do is say, well, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah not for this sin. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because they were inhospitable to visitors. Okay? They should have welcomed these visitors. They didn't welcome them. That's why God destroyed the cities. That's almost laughable, especially if you consider, I'll put another scripture verse up here. It is actually, does anyone know, are you familiar with, there's an epistle in the Bible. It's the shortest epistle. It's the shortest book of the Bible. It's the epistle of Jude. Jude was an apostle. Okay? Jude, okay? The epistle, okay, or the letter, okay? That's what epistle means. The letter of Jude, okay? Jude was also Thaddeus, okay? He went by two names. But we have the epistle of Jude. It comes right before the book of Revelation, the Bible. It's the penultimate book of the Bible, second to last, okay? In the letter of Jude, there's no chapters in it, there's just verses because it's so short, okay? Verse 7, okay? Listen to this. Likewise, Sodom, Gomorrah, the surrounding towns, which in the same manner as they indulged in sexual promiscuity and practiced unnatural vice, served as an example by undergoing a punishment of eternal fire. Okay? It doesn't sound like God punished Sodom and Gomorrah because they weren't welcoming these visitors. God punished them for the sin of the unnatural vice of Sodom. Okay? So I tell you this because if you're ever in and you will be in debates over this, you will get into discussions on this issue, okay? And when people give you the line that, oh, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah because they were unwelcoming, say, no. The Bible makes very clear. The story itself makes it clear, but they try to spin it in their own way. Okay? The letter of Jude makes clear, absolutely. God destroyed these cities because of the unnatural vice that they were engaging in. Okay? Now, I say that you have to be prepared intellectually to engage the culture because we're in a culture war. It's a war out there. Okay? You saw the statements of the people responding to Archbishop Neinstein's address. Okay? Well, if sodomy and abortion and these things are from Satan, hail Satan. Okay? Well, this is the mentality of some people out there. And I talk to students who are in college. If you say that you oppose gay marriage, as it's called, they look at you like you're a Nazi. You're treated as a Nazi. What do you mean? How dare you are intolerant of what someone wants to do? They love each other. Why should they be denied this? Well, no. We have to be able to articulate, okay, the truth of, okay, what is marriage? That's why we've been studying it for the past couple of weeks. Okay. What is the fundamental thing on marriage that makes it possible for a man and a woman, but impossible for two people of the same sex? It's one word, okay? And it's the word that's most essential. If you remember nothing else, remember this word because this is what you can say to people, trying to convince them that this is wrong, that this is sinful. And it is complementarity. Okay? That's the word you have to remember. Complementarity. The male and female sexes are complementary. Okay? The bodies are. Okay? They're designed to go with one another to make life. Okay? And emotionally also, we're complementary. Okay? That's the key word. Now, Another scripture verse that's important in this debate, okay, because it is a debate in society, okay. I just read New Jersey was the last state just yesterday. This was in the Kenosha paper. I think it was New Jersey. The state legislature passed a law saying two people of the same sex can get married under the state law. Okay. So there are, I think, maybe 14 states now, or 15 states, maybe there are even more, I'm not sure, that are falling to this. Okay. Illinois is on the brink of it. Okay. They just about did it, and then a number of black ministers who were Protestants but members of the state legislature in Illinois, they said, we're not going along with this. This is no, we're not going to go along with this. This is wrong. Okay, they're Bible Christians, and they said we're not going on this agenda. Okay, we're not accepting this. It came down to 1 or 2 votes. Okay, Wisconsin's not there yet, but it may be. Okay, so we have to be able to engage people and explain to them why this is wrong and why two people of the same sex can't get married. Okay? Now, another biblical basis we have for this being sinful, okay, is, in fact, I'll erase this because so I can. It's Romans, okay. St. Paul's epistle to the Romans, chapter 1, starting at verses 28. Okay. And let me see, it's 28 to, pardon me, 18 to 27. 18 to 27. Okay. Now, I'll just preface this by saying, why would St. Paul address this issue? Homosexuality. Does anyone know the history of Rome? What was going on there? This was going on in Rome. This was going on in Greece. Okay, especially as it began to become more widespread, it caused the fall of these civilizations. You could say this fall of these cities. And St. Paul's letter to the Romans, he's writing to the Romans, and this is what he says, okay? The wrath of God is indeed being revealed from heaven against every impiety and wickedness of those who suppress the truth by their wickedness. For what can be known about God is evident to them, because God made it evident to them ever since the creation of the world. Invisible creatures, attributes of eternal power and divinity have been able to be understood and perceived in what he has made. Okay? That's okay. We can look at creation and determine a God made this. Okay? That's intelligent design. That's what St. Paul's talking about here. Okay? There's order in the universe. This is like the Greek and Roman philosophers. But God is revealing to us here that we can look around and determine, okay, there's a God and there's a moral law too. Okay? And as a result, St. Paul says, they have no excuse. For although they knew God, they did not accord him glory or give him thanks. Instead, they became vain in their reasoning, senseless in their minds, which were darkened. Now, this is verse 24. Therefore, God handed them over to impurity through the lusts of their hearts, for the mutual degradation of their bodies. They exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and revered and worshipped the creature rather than the Creator. Therefore, God handed them over to degrading passions. Their females exchanged natural relations for unnatural, and males likewise gave up natural relations with females and burned with lust for one another. Males did shameful things with males and thus received in their own persons the due penalty for their perversity. And since they did not see to fit to acknowledge God, God handed them over to their undiscerning mind to do what is improper. So, what is St. Paul teaching here? That this activity is not natural. Okay? Now, this is something that's revealed by God. Okay? It's revealed in the Scriptures. Okay? But it's something that's available to our knowledge through reason. That's what the Archbishop was saying. That's what the document on marriage said from the Archdiocese, okay, for the whole state of Wisconsin. That using our reason, we can look at male and female and say, this is complementary. to have sexual relations between males and females is the natural thing to do. Okay? And this is how new life comes into existence. Just, we don't even need divine revelation to figure this out. Everyone can figure this out. Okay? So then you wonder, okay, why is it that 70% of people think same-sex marriage is okay? Why? That's the burning question. I want you to think about that right now. Just think, why would so many people, more than 2/3 of the people in this country, think that same-sex marriage is fine? Yeah, people just let them get married, who cares? Okay. Well, no. Okay. Because the state recognizing this is really affirming this activity. It's saying this activity, there's nothing wrong with it. This is fine. Okay. Up until 20 years ago, there were laws in states prohibiting this. If you did this and you were caught, you could go to prison. Because people recognized this is wrong. It wasn't the Catholic Church's teaching. States had laws prohibiting homosexual sodomy. And now things have gone 180, just turned around. What is it that has caused people's thinking to so radically change? I'm throwing this out to you. What do you think has caused people, if you took a poll 40 years ago, 50 years ago, it would have been 0. No one would have thought, 2 people of the same sex getting married? No. Okay. Now it's 70%. People think, yeah, this is okay. Why has this happened? What do you think?
Because of the media.
That's one reason, okay. The media, okay. What has the media done? What has the media done? What are they continuing to do? What?
Make it look natural, like some people are born that way.
Okay, that's a big part of it. Yes, Nevin?
But during that same time, did people think less of black people and less of women?
People thought less of, okay, oh, that's true, okay. People were more prejudiced toward black people, okay. That is a natural condition that you can't change, right? Okay. So if you're black, if you're dark-skinned, okay, if you're fair-skinned, you have no control over that. But you're onto something. See, you're born that way, right? There's nothing. So why should you be, prejudiced against someone or hate someone or have bad feelings towards someone because of the color of their skin? No. As Dr. Martin Luther King said in his famous speech, do you know what the line is? What he said in Washington, D.C.? We just celebrated it, the anniversary recently, okay? People should be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the what? Content of their character. Yes. Okay? Yes. So, okay. So that's true. And as far as women, people's views have changed. Maybe I don't think women. No one ever regarded them as hating them because they're women or something. No. Maybe their gifts and talents weren't recognized enough. Okay, fine, and now they are. If you've ever read Pope John Paul II's beautiful letter, Mulieris Dignitatem, on the dignity of women, it's beautiful. He talks about the gifts of women and how they add to our society and everything. But you had a question.
So you don't think people are born gay? You think that they just...
Well, that's the question. See, now that's what the gay agenda, as I call it, has put forth, that they're born this way. And the Gaga girl, as I call her, okay, I don't call her Lady Gaga because a lady is someone who is refined and has good manners, okay? I call her the Gaga girl because she's not a lady, whatever she may be, okay? I'm sorry. She doesn't act like a lady. Come on now. Okay. So, now, the popular song, okay, yeah, Born That Way, this is all part of the propaganda. Now, what I'm going to be showing you, okay, over these next few days is debunking the myths, okay. See, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the myth was they're born that way because of a gene. Okay? There's a genetic basis for this. Okay? We don't see that argument used anymore because that's been proved false. There is no genetic basis for this. Okay? There's no gay gene. And they've really looked because of identical twins. The gay gene argument has fallen because they have identical genes. I mean, if you have twins, identical twins, and one turns out to have homosexual tendencies, the other doesn't, well, you both have them if it's genetic. Okay? So you don't see that argument anymore because that was something that was promoted, okay? But it's been debunked. So the 70% of people, okay, 70% okay, of U.S. citizens, okay, think marriage, okay, and I put that in quotation marks, between two people of the same sex, it's okay. Why? Why? What happened? Okay, because this number, this has grown over the past 5 years. It just keeps getting more and more people. It's like everyone's falling on the bandwagon. Okay, why is this? What is the reason for this? Well, because of you could say propaganda. Okay. The media, okay, TV, movies, okay, etc. Okay. Oh, you add pop music too. Can't forget about "Born That Way" by the Gaga Girl. Okay, pop music. Okay. So all these, if you keep telling people that, oh, you're born that way, you're born that way, and they can't change, and this is something good and to be celebrated, people are not thinking, they're just taking it in. And you know, on television, I don't know if you're familiar with a television show. It used to be on, it went off the air a number of years, but it ran a number of years, okay? The television show Will and Grace. Has anyone ever seen that show? Okay, Will and Grace. This was the breakout show to promote the homosexual agenda, because you had two guys who were supposedly homosexuals, and they shared an apartment together, and it was a comedy. So you were able to break down people's, you could say, their natural revulsion toward this, just by portraying these guys as good and happy and okay, but we're both gay. That was the message. And I saw a talk by Raymond Arroyo from EWTN. He said 15 years of Will and Grace resulted in the loss of the culture war on this issue. This is why we have 70%, because people have been told over and over that this is good, this is something that's natural, you're born that way, you can't change. And it's affected people's thinking. Okay, so when you go out there and you say, well, no, this is not part of God's plan, same-sex marriage, you'll be attacked. You have to be able to defend your position. Okay, that's what I'm doing here. So you don't end up being one of the 70%, and you can respond to someone in a good way and use arguments, intelligent arguments, to say why same-sex marriage is not something that should be allowed in our society. Okay. Now the propaganda, yes.
Wait, so like I don't get the answer to the question. So they aren't born gay?
No, they're not, and I'm going to get to that. I'm going to prove that to you. Okay?
And
okay. The gay gene was a myth.
Yeah,
okay?
I got that.
Okay.
But they what do you suppose someone does if they are gay? Like, are you saying they stay single for the rest of their life, or
okay.
if
good question.
If what'd you say, however many years ago, when 0% thought it was okay, then how come people fought so hard when they actually thought that they were gay? do you get what I'm kind of saying? Like, why would they go against everybody to say that they were, if they weren't born that way and weren't,
Uh-huh. Well, because to get,
you don't?
okay,
You know what I'm saying?
no,
Like,
these,
I don't get it.
these are good questions. I'm going to answer them, okay, over the next few days, okay? The 70%, okay, it's resulted because they have convinced people that they were born that way. They have convinced people that this is the way they are, they cannot change, and that's false, okay? That is false, okay? And I'm going to prove that to you, but I don't want to get ahead of myself, okay? I'll prove it to you, that you can change.
I would-
Yeah, and people aren't born that way. We know the genesis of this now, which I'll explain to you. Yes.
Arousal comes from the brain, so it's psychological.
Well, it also comes from not just the brain. It's a physical thing too. It's both body,
Okay.
body
causes
emotional.
So it's not
Okay.
genetic,
What happens
so
with the body that causes your mind?
it could be, like, you could be born that way, couldn't you? Because it's the brain, right?
Well,
You can change the way you think.
Am I right?
Yeah, well, it's the way, as you said, people are thinking in a certain way. Okay, so you know, I'll just argue to the absurd here. Okay, just a minute. Okay, stay with me. I'm going to argue to the absurd. Some people practice bestiality. You know what that is?
Yes.
Having sex with animals. Okay. Well, are people born that way? I mean, they have an attraction to this because they get aroused at looking at animals. This is a serious question.
Okay,
Could they be born that way?
maybe.
No. No, it's a perversion of the natural inclination. Okay? Something's gone wrong here, and people have engaged in practices. I'll explain the genesis of the homosexual attraction, but I first want to just talk about the, yes, Kate.
It's actually scientifically proven that, for example, gay men, when they're in the womb, there's like a kind of a mutation where they get less of the aggression hormone and more of the communication hormone that girls get. So they're actually more feminine and they are attracted to men when they're born, so they're born that way.
No.
What studies?
What's that?
Well,
Yeah, you're right.
This
is AP site.
It's
Like, you're a douchebag. You are a big douchebag.
okay, well, let me even show you the notes right No, I want a good discussion on this, okay? And if see, there are a lot of claims. Okay? There was, yeah, but the same thing. Like I said, they were claiming the presence of a gay gene for years until this was disproved. Just because someone says it and say this is a scientific study doesn't mean it's true.
But
Okay?
it's not a gay gene. Like, it's not a gene, it's just a mutation.
Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone.
Secreted in the womb.
Okay, but that doesn't. Just listen. Okay, but that doesn't mean that someone is necessarily ordered and attracted to someone of the same sex. One doesn't follow the other. Okay, necessarily. Okay, and I'll prove to you how someone can change because there's something called reparative therapy when they get people to change their attraction to the same sex to an opposite sex. And if someone were born this way, then they couldn't do this. Okay. So but you'll have to stay with me on this. But I'd be interested in seeing what study or if you can give me a site to look at. Okay, because it's all part of the agenda now. The agenda I was talking about, okay, no, just, no, just don't be attacking each other. Someone has a good point to make. We'll articulate a response, okay? But I just want to show you some examples of the gay agenda at work here, okay? Now here, this is yesterday's newspaper in Kenosha. Okay. This was the article I was referring to. Gay couples, they're testing the ban in North Carolina, okay? So we have 2 women here before applying for a marriage license in Asheville, North Carolina. And, it shows them kissing. This is page, let me see, what page is this? This is the A7 of the Kenosha newspaper, okay? So, you keep showing people pictures like this that, well, look at, everyone's doing it, and in North Carolina, they're going to violate the law. They're going to go apply for a marriage license even though they don't give marriage licenses for people of the same sex. And you'll get some county clerks who say, well, I think it's good, so I'm going to give a marriage license to you, okay? Here's another, these are examples. This is from October 13th. This is the Kenosha paper. We have a picture here, okay? It says gay rally.
Cindy Duran and Joe Stapleton, please come to the main office at the bell. Cindy Duran, Joe Stapleton, please come to the main office at the bell.